What would you do if your kid is in pain, very depressed, and said they hate their body? Not how it looks, but that it's not them. They are in the wrong body, and they're in distress for weeks, months. Would you roll your eyes and tell them, it'll pass? It's not natural to feel any way but how you're born, so deal with it. Or would you go right to a doctor and start a transition plan? My guess is, if it were your kid, you would likely do none of that. Like me, you would do a serious, if not desperate, dive into all available information, experts, doctors, figuring out how to get help for your kid. Because nothing would matter more than balancing how to help, whether it's therapy or medicine or whatever it is, whatever they tell you, whatever makes sense, how to help and how not to hurt your kid, especially at a tender age. Now, our politics lead us to do the opposite. The emphasis is on being contentious, not curious. So tonight, we're going to look at this issue of transgender kids and how to treat them as if they were all our kids. We're going to ask the questions that matter to the people who live the reality. Being transgender is not new. It's also not easy to be transgender, especially as a kid. In a recent study, just more than half of trans teens say they considered suicide. And now it's worse, as the trans community has been politically weaponized, specifically the safety of kids. That many are being raced down the road of treatment and change. So, how do doctors and experts decide what type of treatment is right and for what age? What are their concerns? What are their convictions and those of trans people and their parents? Now, one reason you likely don't know more is that we rarely discuss it. There is a fear, for some at least, that anything but unqualified acceptance of transgenderism will be considered hateful by the trans community and its allies. I get that fear, but I also get the instinct to combat ignorant attacks and animus against the community. The community is under attack, literally and politically. States are counting them and trying to limit treatment just for political advantage. That's scary. So let's lay out the realities, risks, and rewards. That is what we will start with tonight. For example, how many kids are we talking about? If we just look at how many teens, 13 to 17, identify as transgender, you're at about 300,000 out of 25+ million teens that age. Yes, we've seen an increase in diagnoses. Why? Because more doctors are aware, sensitive to it, and more kids are willing to express their truth or their distress. But of about 30,000 or so a year who are diagnosed, about 10 to 15% take medicines like hormones. A fraction of those have mastectomies, top surgery. Maybe a couple dozen teens actually have what's called bottom surgery. Now, for some context, did you know a lot more kids in that age range have breasts made bigger or smaller just as cosmetic surgery? And many more take hormones just to increase their height. Still, as you'll learn tonight, trans treatment is often more impactful and more risky than those other procedures. There are many who say treatments save their lives, but not all. There are also doctors who are worried about what they're seeing, situations they've had to stop or slow, and young people who decided too late that transitioning was not right for them. So let's talk to people living the reality, treating kids and advising families as doctors, and parents hoping, just like you would, just like I would, that they're making the right choice for their kid. And we start with investigative correspondent Rich McHugh. He spent 6 months working on this report. You and I have worked together for a long time, Rich. And this is a tough one. You've got young kids, I've got young kids. We could see this as something that's a possibility. And we know a lot of the same people. And they said the same thing to us. Ooh, brother, you are walking into some dangerous waters on this. But you decided to do it because?
This past spring, I was looking at the the data that had come out that said that, the number of people, the number of youth that have identified as transgender has doubled. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I was like looking at this from afar. And then I was like, okay, I need to actually look at this so I can better understand it. And it took me a long time to understand the sides and what's going on. And as a father, I was like, I have real young kids. And so I was like, this is something I really need to pay attention to. I read a story from one of the girls we're going to hear from tonight, Helena. She transitioned, and then she detransitioned, And the written account that she wrote was just horrific. And I was like, wait a minute. And she talked about how she was receiving all sorts of vitriol for talking about it. And I was like, that shouldn't be. And so why is that? And I looked on Twitter, and there's all sorts of hate and things going on. I was like, this is something I got to cover. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be worth it.
So take us into the piece.
So what we're going to hear from is, the first piece is three doctors actually, but I tried to find the most sober voices in this conversation. And it took a long time to actually speak with these people, but doctors at the top of this field, they transitioned, they themselves have transitioned hundreds of teens themselves, and they support this, but they are also saying there's something wrong with how we're going about this. The meaning of gender-affirming care has been co-opted. And so they're all kind of on the same team, but they're saying, hold on, there's this schism in the thought leadership of how we're going about this. We say you need to pause.
Let's take a look.
When I started doing this work, gender-affirming care basically involved listening to the young person, trusting that they had a sense of who they were, and helping them sort out what was going to be best for them.
Dr. Laura Edwards-Leeper was the founding psychologist at the first pediatric gender clinic in the United States, Boston Children's Hospital. She has helped hundreds of children transition from one gender to another, like Noah Bartman's.
All my life, I felt kind of uncomfortable in my gender. I always felt like I fit in more with boys. It wasn't necessarily a feeling, it was just something that I felt I was.
Bartman's, now 18, says that 5 years ago he felt so uncomfortable as a girl he considered suicide.
I had a lot of mental health challenges, and I was taken to the hospital for suicidal ideation.
Tell me about that. What brought you to that point?
I felt that I couldn't live my life and go on and do the things that I enjoyed doing if I had to do it living as a girl.
After nearly 3 years of therapy and assessments, Bartman's had a double mastectomy.
I had top surgery, and it went really well, and I don't have any regrets. It improved my mental health a lot and my functioning as a human being in society.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
On the face of it, Bartman's case seems to support transitioning kids who want it.
Those who I have worked with for a longer period of time are generally doing well.
But today, Dr. Edwards-Leeper says gender-affirming care has been co-opted.
I do think that it has been hijacked. People have changed the meaning behind it. Some providers consider gender-affirming care to be a very fast-moving process to get the child to medical intervention. The field has gone completely off the rails in many respects.
A remarkable statement considering she's a world leader in transgender health. But recent data shows a massive influx of new young patients. Between 2017 and 2021, over 17,000 patients aged 6 through 17 initiated hormones or puberty blockers.
It appears that there are a lot of young people medically transitioning. I mean, that's certainly what I'm witnessing.
Are gender clinics overwhelmed?
I think they're extremely overwhelmed.
Is the healthcare community rushing youth and adolescents through this process too quickly?
I think in many places, yes.
Dr. Erica Anderson agrees. A clinical psychologist, she was the first transgender president of USPath and a former board member of WPath.
I think we need to reevaluate how we're doing all of this.
You think we're moving kids and adolescents through this process too quickly?
I do. In many cases, by some people who are doing work in this area, where they say things like, if a child says they're trans, they're trans. And I'll afford them the advantage of medicines. And I think I'm worried that in too many cases that they're not doing a proper evaluation. Parents have been telling me this for a couple of years. They come to me and they say, we went to a clinic and in 15, 20 minutes, they said, well, your child is trans and, this is the pathway to hormones.
15 minutes.
Yeah. And in some cases, even more deplorably, in my view, they do this privately with the child and then advise the parents after the session, oh, well, we confirm that your child is trans and we've talked to them about hormones. without the parent there.
I do have colleagues who agree with all of this, but they're terrified to say anything.
This is really the most serious abandonment of scientific principles that I have seen in the medical profession.
This doctor is the chief medical director of a large children's health organization in the U.S., who would only speak to us anonymously for fear of losing his job.
Very reasonable physicians have spoken their mind about this, and they've lost their jobs, even people with tenure.
And you feel that would happen to you?
I'm almost certain of it. What is concerning to me here is that all dialogue, all reasonable dialogue is stopped.
In fact, the doctors say some providers scare parents, citing studies saying if they don't go along with the treatment, their child could commit suicide.
There are no studies that show that by intervening medically quickly, it will decrease suicide risk.
Too often, parents are told, well, you can have a live child of a gender different than the one you thought they were, or a dead child of the gender you knew them to be. And to have that be used as a lever to force someone to concede to treatment that may or may not be appropriate, I think is unwise and borders on malfeasance.
We are talking about young people. We're talking about minors. I am very concerned about what's happening in the field, and I don't think that we're providing good care. And I'm concerned about potential harm being done, not intentionally, but I think that providers are not taking a step back and really questioning, why are we seeing these numbers? And why aren't we looking more closely to get an answer to that? Instead, we're just powering ahead, with treatment. And I think that's really problematic. But we also need to slow down and put the brakes on a little bit and take a minute to reflect on where we are and why we're here and what is the best path forward.
It's interesting to hear people who support this, support these kids, support the treatment, but have reservations, and yet that modified perspective makes them worried about losing everything. That doctor had to be in shadow, like guys when we do drug stories, who are worried about a cartel coming after them. How do you interpret that?
I've talked to over a dozen doctors and clinicians in reporting this story, and they are terrified to speak out. They couldn't, like the doctor in shadow. They'll lose their jobs. They're like, I want to speak in the worst way, but I'm the breadwinner, and if I open my mouth and speak honestly about this subject, I will lose my job.
And there are people who support trans kids
they
getting
work in
treatment
this field.
Even transitioning sometimes.
Yes.
So that's why we got to have the conversation. Rich. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.